So this is the only way to record because I have a PDF and I have a study available, but I can't get it up on the computer. So we just have to figure that out because the fan goes crazy. But anyways, just gonna do some reading. It might be too high. Okay. So there's a place here where Lang quotes somebody talking about Kafka and Shakespeare, where it says, leaving aside the degree of genius each has, considering both only as expositors of man's suffering and cosmic alienation, it is Kafka who makes the more intense and complete exposition. And indeed, the judgment may be correct, exactly because for Kafka, the sense of evil is not contradicted by the sense of personal identity. Shakespeare's world, much as Kafka's, is that prison cell which Pascal says the world is, from which daily the inmates are led forth to die. Shakespeare, no less than Kafka, forces upon us the cruel rationality of the conditions of human life, the tale told by an idiot, the puerile gods who torture us not for punishment but for sport. And no less than Kafka, Shakespeare is revolted by the failure of the prison of this world. Nothing is more characteristic of him than his imagery of disgust. But in Shakespeare's cell, the company is so much better than in Kafka's. The captains and kings and lovers and clowns of Shakespeare are alive and complete before they die. In Kafka, long before the sentence is executed, even long before the malign legal process is even instituted, something terrible has been done to the accused. We all know what that is. He has been stripped of all that is becoming to a man except his abstract humanity, which, like his skeleton, never is quite becoming to a man. He is never without parents, home, wife, child, commitment, or appetite. He has no connection with power, beauty, love, wit, courage, loyalty, or fame, and the pride that might be taken in these. So we may say that Kafka's knowledge of evil exists without the contradictory knowledge of the self and its health and validity, that Shakespeare's knowledge of evil exists with the contradiction in its fullest possible force. And you get why it's highlight. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It's like he goes on to explain it. So we can read more, but just taking a little bit of a break. It's like the difference between like the world is hell, but at least we're in the company of each other. And then just kind of like, what even is like, what even, it just feels like a labyrinthian thing without, it's like you don't even have the Minotaur. You don't even have like a demon. It's just like, oh, it's paper. We find out that Shakespeare does depict, as Trilling points out, that Shakespeare does depict characters who evidently experience themselves as real and alive and complete without riddled by doubt or torn by conflicts they may be. With Kafka, this is not so. Indeed, the effort to communicate what being alive is like in the absence of such assurances seems to characterize the work of a number of writers and artists of our time. Life without feeling alive. With Samuel Beckett, for instance, one enters a world in which there is no contradictory sense of the self and its health and validity to mitigate the despair, terror, and boredom of existence. In such a way, the two tramps who wait for Godot are condemned to live. We always find something, eh, Didi, to give us the impression that we exist? Yes, yes, we're magicians, but let us persevere in what we have resolved before we forget. That's two people. That's a call and answer, you know. In painting, Francis Bacon, among others, seems to be dealing with similar issues. Generally, it is evident that what we shall discuss here clinically is but a small sample of something in which human nature is deeply implicated to, and to which we can contribute only a very partial understanding. To begin at the beginning, biological birth is a definitive act in where the infant organism is precipitated into the world. There it is, a new baby, a new biological entity, already with its own ways, real and alive from our point of view. But what of the baby's point of view? So this is where we're getting into the description of ontological security. Okay. So the individual in the ordinary circumstances of living may feel more unreal than real in a literal sense, more dead than alive, vicariously differentiated from the rest of the world, so that his identity and autonomy are always in question. He may lack the excuse me. He may lack the experience of his own temporal continuity. He may possess an overriding sense of personal consistency or cohesiveness. He may feel more insubstantial than substantial and unable to assume that the stuff he is made of is genuine, good, valuable. He may feel himself as partially divorced from his body. It is, of course, inevitable that an individual whose experience of himself is of this order can no more live in a secure world than he can be secure in himself. So there's okay. I feel like we should, like, he makes it clear, but I feel like you should kind of just so it's like, before in human development, it was survival. Whereas like, well, what am I going to do with my life? It's like, fucking get busy, dude. Like, it's like either being in an army or like making food or like building shelter. Like there were some people who were like upper class that were just able to like command people. But other than that, everybody was active. Everybody had like things needed to get done. There was just a lot of shit that needed to get done. That they were allowed to do too, that they were encouraged to do. Whereas like, yeah, just go into the woods and build a house. Fuck it. Who cares, dude? Like it needs to happen. But like then since like basically, I mean, like the Industrial Revolution and all that, but like just with the population boom and with a emphasis on consumerism over production, you're left with a lot of people who kind of just, engage with life, where it's just like it's easy to go along with this idea, so I just go with it. It's like they don't like end up doing something where it's like, I really like to make furniture, so you just like go out. I mean, I use a lot of lumber metaphors because I think trees are dope, but like you just cut down a tree and make like, a table, or like, you make a house, or like you just make something out of something. And I think that like art's the same way. I think that like math's the same way. Even like fashion, anything. Just make something. Make a product, make a business. That's making things. Just like if you're contributing an idea, then you're inherently helping out, I think. So it's like if everybody did that, I think it's better to have your choice from the best of ideas than it is to have, so I think that with the idea of feeling unreal, more dead than alive, precariously differentiated from the rest of the world, is like, what about being in a guild with like, people who make good shoes, like it's not like it's the most, it's not like it's like, oh my God, I'm just like rad dude. It's like, hey, I got something to fucking do, like I got purpose. And it's not even like it's like, it's the idea of labor divorced from capital, where it's like there's the inherent satisfaction of labor, where it's like it's nice to have things. If nobody did any work, like how would we have anything? Where it's like the roads, the buildings, the food, the clothes, everything was required effort. Everything required effort. So it's like there's a satisfaction in contributing to that and being a producer, which I think is fundamentally natural. I think that that's something you can't, like, I don't particularly think money is panned out in the best ways, but like, it's like work at the very least, there is something to it where it's just like it helps you sort your brain out, it gives you direction because it's just like, well, what should I do? It's like, fucking just anything, dude. Like as long as you're just contributing ideas, as long as you're just contributing, it's just like, good job. Sam Hyde's also on that kick, so shouts out Sammy. Um, so it is of course inevitable that an individual whose experience of himself is of this order can no more live in a secure world than he can be secure in himself. The whole physiology of his world would be correspondingly different from that of the individual whose sense of self is securely established in its health and validity. So it's like the person who feels unreal and feels disconnected from like their body, their health, their purpose, their vocation is going to feel less secure in their idea of themselves than somebody who feels at home in their development and in their place in the world. So, relatedness to other persons will be seen to have a radically different significance and function. To anticipate, we can say that the individual. Sorry. The individual whose own being is secure in this primary experiential sense. Relatedness with others is potentially gratifying, whereas the ontologically insecure person is preoccupied with preserving rather than gratifying himself. The ordinary circumstances of living therefore threaten his low threshold of security. And he says that this formulation is very similar to that of H.S. Sullivan, Hill, from Reichman, and Arrietty in particular. Ferdin, although expressing himself very differently, seems to have advanced a closely allied view. But in a position of primary ontological security, if a position of primary ontological security has been reached, the ordinary circumstances of life do not afford a perpetual threat to one's own existence. If such a basis for living has not been reached, the ordinary circumstances of everyday life constitute a continual and deadly threat. So, still organizing all this information, obviously, but going off the model of ontological security and insecurity, it is like, healthy development is what makes somebody feel real. Somebody's like, my dad bought me a surfboard when I was like 8, and so I've been doing that like my whole life, and it's just like, something I do. So there's like there's that kind of person, and it's good. It's like it's a positive loop in their brain where it's just like this thing that they do that they like, and like if everything happened to go right, then there's like, a lot of stuff like that in the average human where they're just like, oh, this is something I should be doing, like brushing your teeth, cooking, biking, I'm a walker, so just things that, feel rewarded in your brain, that feel like a positive loop. So, with people who don't feel well adjusted, or they don't feel like their personality has taken, a progressive, healthy arc, even if they don't conceptualize of it this way, if they at their heart don't feel like they are developed satisfactionarily to the point which they should be. Like they don't feel real. Where it's just like they don't feel like they can measure up to what it is to be a human. And that's why it goes into, what I would essentially call magical thinking. And this is why I compare it to an adequate tool. It's the adequate tool of a child, so it at least works in childhood when one doesn't have power to cope with things. But then also there's the question of, when does one truly gain power? Because it's like, you're not in control of your life when you're a child. And then it's like, well, when are you in control of your life? You're pretty much at the whim of the world. So it's like they're coping mechanisms. They're not like, it's, if you can follow insanity back, it doesn't seem so crazy. And like that's also the problem with R.D. Laing's work, is that it's like following the rabbit hole and being like, oh, that makes sense. And so, he does like do a good job at drawing distinct lines between what is a healthy brain and what is a schizoid or schizophrenic brain. So I think good job on that. But you also got Shakespeare, Kafka, and Francis Bacon, the painter. Like three and two on the same open, on the same spread. So he's also got a woman named Joan. The objects of fantasy or imagination obey magical laws. They have magical relationships, not real relationships. So yes, magical thinking is canon with R.D. Laing. That's what, like, yeah, it's definitely like just sort of, like this is also where it gets weird if people are talking about like new agey magic. Like, no, yeah, I'm not gonna pick that scab, but it is very. He also talks about stoning, so like like gray rocking, that like method. So it's talking about, thus to forego one's autonomy becomes the secret of safeguarding it. To play possum, to feign death, becomes the mean of preserving one's aliveness. To turn oneself into a stone becomes a way of not being turned into a stone by someone else. Be thou hard, extorts Nietzsche. In a sense that Nietzsche did not, I believe, himself intend. To be stony hard and thus dead forestals the danger of being turned into a dead thing by another person. Thoroughly, to understand oneself, engulf oneself, is a defense against the risk involved in being sucked into the whirlpool of another ways of comprehending oneself. To consume oneself by one's own love prevents the possibility of being consumed by another. It is also seen that the preferred method of attack on the other is based on the same principles as the attack to be felt implicit in the other's relationship to oneself. Thus, the man who is frightened of his own subjectivity being swamped, impinged upon, or congealed by the other is frequently found attempting to swamp, to impinge upon, or to kill the other person's subjectivity. The process involves a vicious circle. The more one attempts to preserve one's autonomy and identify by nullifying the specific human individuality of the other, the more it is felt to be necessary to continue to do so, because with each denial of the other person's ontological status, one's own ontological security is decreased. The threat to the self from the others is potentiated and hence has to be more desperately negated. He also has like examples of case studies where it's like, these people who are screaming nonsense, but it's also like, it's usually like a poetic language. And I think that Artie Lang does do a great job at just sort of, I mean, like it's so baked in with literature and art and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, he's canon, you know, like he's just, he just fits in with the reading list. Oh, oh god, I'm fucking tired. He also, like, you know, makes great recommendations. So we also do keep a copy of Two Treaties by Locke on Deck. That does. We have one of them. All right, the OCD studies. That's what we should be reading next, because we're just going through basically. I think we're just going to be doing literal reading. I think that that's going to be the best way to do stuff like this, because I feel like just literal readings from stuff is the best way to sort of approach it. It's kind of a spoiler. It's just literally the book. This is where choosing books is going to be hard, because there's just going to be books that are like, hey, read this book and go into it blind. And then there's going to be books that are just sort of like, I don't know, like the Journal of Eugene Delacroix. That one's fair game. That one's fair game to go through. It's not, your spoilers don't count. But like any novels, like awkward. And then there's the ones that everybody fucking knows. So I guess that's why, yeah. We are getting through what is to be done. We are doing that. By the guy with the fucking worst fucking his last name does not go into English letters well. It's like 4 or 5 syllables. It's fucked up. And I love the Russians. So like all of his characters I can do it, but this guy's just unfortunate. I also feel like Shalikov is just like poetry stories. It's kind of like a Whitman or something. What book is that? I'm just looking at books, guys. Sorry. I just don't want to read all that. But anyways, posting that in the chat. And they're starting now, but that was 20 minutes. So at least that. Maybe do small sections. Maybe do like 7-minute videos several times a day. And just like on concentrated passages. That seems kind of cool, because then we can just do like little bits. And that'll be more focused and easier to get through. Okay. I think we've discovered how we're going to transform the show. It's going to be a clip show first, and then it's going to go into longer form. Maybe. I can't script shit, dude. An hour monologue a fucking day is fucking wild. But also, I literally could just be reading. I should just be reading. Let's do that. Posted the link. Okay. So this is Cannabis Improves Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, Case Report and Review of the Literature. It's by Natalia Szegko. It's got the Hanover, Germany school. So I'm not going to try to do the credits, but that's the name of it. That's the person who's the first name on the report. So if you're trying to look for it, I'm looking at it in Frontiers in Psychology. So I'm looking at it there. Frontiers. So, although several lines of evidence support the hypothesis of a dysregulation of serotoninogenic neurotransmission in the pathophysiology of obsessive compulsive disorder, there's also evidence for an involvement of other pathways such as the GABAergic, glutaminergic, and dopaminergic systems. So just, you know, like the stuff that you do to so Xanax affects GABA receptors. And dopamine is like, it's the standard, like, we all talk, like, it's brain chems. Only recently, data obtained from a small number of animal studies alternatively suggested an involvement in the endocannabinoid system and the pathophysiology of OCD, reporting benefits in OCD-like behaviors after use of substances that stimulate the endocannabinoid system, like weed. In humans, until today, only 2 case reports are available reporting successful treatment with dronabinol, so it's THC, an agonist at central cannabinoid CB1 receptors in patients with otherwise treatment refractory OCD. So, treatment resistant. That's a cool way of saying it. But in addition, data obtained from a small, open, uncontrolled trial using the THC analog nabilone suggests that the combination of nabilone plus exposure-based psychotherapy is more effective than treatment alone. These reports are in line with data from a limited number of case studies and small controlled trials in patients with Tourette syndrome, a chronic motor and vocal tic disorder often associated with comorbid obsessive-compulsive behavior, reporting not only an improvement of tics, but also a comorbid OCD after use, OCB, so obsessive-compulsive behavior, after use of different kinds of cannabis-based medicines, including THC, cannabis extracts, and flowers. And then they're going to say they're presenting the case of a 22-year-old. I gotta check text. Sorry about that. Obsessive compulsive disorder is I'm still fucking around. So I'm just gonna send a cry emoji. Obsessive compulsive disorder is characterized by the presence of obsessions and/or compulsions. Obsessions are defined as recurrent and persistent thoughts, urges, or images that are intrusive, unwanted, and cause in most individuals marked anxiety or distress. Compulsions are repetitive behaviors or mental acts that the person feels driven to perform in response to an obsession or according to the rules that must be applied rigidly. OCD is a severe, underdiagnosed mental disorder that causes substantial impairment in the quality of life in the majority of patients. The prevalence of OCD is estimated to be around 2 to 3% of the population. Up to this date, the only treatment approved for alleviation of OCD are cognitive behavioral therapy and pharmacology with selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. However, about 1/3 of patients do not benefit from these treatment strategies, experience recurrent episodes, or do not tolerate treatment with SSRIs. In these otherwise treatment-resistant patients, surgical intervention using deep brain stimulation has been suggested as an alternative option. Or you could just smoke weed. Yeah, so we got 2 options here. We're either going to crack your brain open or you're going to have to smoke a little bit of dope. I think seems like a pretty easy choice to me. Thus, novel treatments and new pharmacological components are urgently needed to improve outcome in patients with OCD. Fuck. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're just gonna put that somewhere because that's important. That's important. I remembered that, but also just reading it aloud makes it hit different because of love. I don't know. The pathophysiology of OCD includes the involvement of different neurotransmitter systems, the most important being the serotonergic system. The serotonin hypothesis of OCD is mainly based on the beneficial treatment effects of SSRI medications. So, yes. In addition, a number of other pathways, such as the GABAergic, glutamatergic, and dopaminergic systems, have been suggested to be involved too. Accordingly, diverse brain regions have been suggested to be affected. Only recently, the Enigma OCD Consortium reported less segregation organization of the structural covariance in OCD, reorganization of brain hubs, as well as a possible signature of altered brain morphometry, especially in those regions involved in brain development and maturation, such as the cingulate and orbitofrontal areas. Against the background of increasing acceptance of cannabis-based medicines in various diseases, increasing evidence for a paramount role of the central endocannabinoid system in brain development and stress regulation, as well as the fact that the ECS is the most important neuromodulatory system in the brain, research was initiated to explore the role of the ECS in the pathophysiology of OCD. Although only a small number of studies in animals and humans have been published addressing this topic, most of the data support the hypothesis that CBM might be effective in the treatment of OCD. The aim of this report is to increase the database by presenting an illustrative case of a patient with severe OCD who markedly benefited from treatment with cannabis. In addition, to summarize available scientific evidence supporting the importance of the ECS in the pathophysiology of OCD. So, okay, so we're talking about the divide itself because obviously I feel like this guy is really influential in psychology. I mean, he's like a direct follow-up to Freud. You know, like he pretty much says that like, yo, Freud wasn't right in everything, but like he set it up so we could spike it. You know, so and I feel like it's interesting because it's a book. You know, this reads like literature. So it's like I would say very readable, dense work. Like just give yourself a week and you can definitely get through a lot of it, you know, and just like try to read like, you know, 20 to 50 pages every day. And it'll be, I think it's like, you know, so the reason I bring that up is I feel like it helps with this sort of, with the frontier sort of, with the frontier literature. Because I feel like this is kind of easier to read than that. That's also like what, 60 years old or something. So this is the guy that he was 22 years old. He showed up to the clinic and he was like, by the time I was 17, I'm depressed and I wanted to kill myself. So it's like the OCD symptoms started in kindergarten, and he constantly wanted to close the door and checking rituals accompanied by just right feeling. So the clinical diagnosis only happened a year before these guys saw him. Because of adverse events with his medication, such as nausea and headaches, and because he felt no positive benefit, he stopped medication after only 1 week. During the first presentation in our clinic, the diagnosis of OCD, according to DSM, was confirmed by one of the authors. So he had contamination, sexual obsessions, repetition of the same words, and magical thinking, which were obsessions. Also covered in this book. Wow, wild. I don't know. This is, you know, it's high lit. We're combining weed, psychology. Yeah, I think I mixed all these things because I'm smoking weed reading this book. And then this is psychological literature about weed. Yeah, that's my thesis statement. During the first presentation in our clinic, the Jesus Christ. Hey, I'm rounding up. I'm at 33 minutes. I'm at 33 minutes. I definitely was in front of the camera today. Nice. It's 5:09. We're getting started at 4:20. It didn't work out. OBS just makes the fan goes crazy, and like this, I feel like it's probably sounding better. I think I'm blazed. I also probably should have. I don't know. I felt like sleepy before this, but this is how this one turned out. This is what highlight gets. It's Russian roulette. Highlight is Russian roulette. You never know what you're gonna get. I just want to get used to. Maybe we should let's shoot for 3 times a week. Let's shoot for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think that's good. That's good because then we can get 2 days a week just to focus on getting stuff organized. But also, I think it's good to just read through this stuff. I still got a lot left of that study. I got distracted because I'm thinking, and I got to see if it's like, then it's like I don't. Okay. So he was repeatedly hand washing. He showered up more than an hour a day. And he did that in combination with checking and ordering and all that. And he's imagining, no, yeah, dude, this is a whole. He's imagining numbers trying to just like, get over it. He spent 4 hours a day on obsessive thought and compulsive behaviors. Homie had 4 hours a day of this shit. Jesus Christ. Non-surprisingly, OCD symptoms cause relative problems in social life and at work. In his training as an animal keeper, his boss and coworkers often extorted him, mainly because of his slowness due to his compulsions. At vocational school, he had difficulty concentrating and learning. Due to his symptoms, he had stopped doing sports, neglected hobbies, avoided social contact, and withdrew more and more socially. There was no evidence that his symptoms should be attributed to the effects of substance abuse or another medical condition. The presentation in our clinic was motivated by the fact that he had noticed the use of cannabis alleviated his symptoms. He reported that he had started using cannabis recreationally at 16. Because his symptoms markedly improved, he started to smoke street cannabis on a regular basis, using half gram of cannabis 3 to 4 times per week, about 8 grams a month. Yep, homie smoked weed. Use of street cannabis resulted in constant and marked improvement of obsession and compulsions resulting about. So it's like constant and market improvement. Well, this is a casual show. Use of street cannabis resulted in constant and marked improvement of obsession and compulsions of about 80 to 90%, lasting for 12 to 15 hours. In addition, his sleep improved because of a general feeling of relaxation, reduced OCD, and less rumination. No adverse events were reported. Despite these beneficial effects, he decided to stop using street cannabis on a regular basis at the age of 20 because he did not want to do anything illegal and because he was afraid of losing his driver's license. Started smoking cigarettes at 15, 10 cigarettes a day. And then didn't really use anything else. He reported not to drink any alcohol for several years. We decided to initiate treatment with prescribed medicinal cannabis because of the diagnosis of severe OCD, due to the fact that the patient refused pharmacotherapy with SSRI, as well as psychotherapy, and because of his reports of marked improvement after the use of street cannabis. Before his prescription of medicinal cannabis, the patient stated that he has not smoked cannabis for about 1 year. Because THC content of street cannabis he had used before was unknown, we decided to test 2 different chemovars. Bedrocan containing 22% THC, and Bedrobanol containing 13.5 THC. Both the Bedrocan and Bedrobanol are produced by Bedrocan, which is in compliance with GMP, European Medical Agency's Good Manufacturing Practice, and ISO 9001 2015 certificates. Since the patient reported so much better effects using Bedrocan treatment, his chemovar was implemented with a daily dose to 0.2 to 0.3 gram. Immediately thereafter, he reported a marked reduction of obsession compulsions of about 70%, as well as general relaxation, improved sleep, and concentration at school, as well as overall improvement of his quality of life, resulting in better social functioning and reduced problems at work. For example, he started to practice sports. 20 minutes after initiation of medicinal cannabis therapy, he passed his final theoretical and practical exams as an animal keeper, and his employer offered him a permanent position. During the last months, he slightly increased the daily dose of Bedrocan up to 0.7 gram. At baseline, before implementation of treatment with medicinal cannabis, as well as 3, 5, and 20 months later, A variety of clinical assessments have been performed by clinical psychologists and psychotherapists experienced in this kind of test. Detailed results are provided. Oh, fuck yes. I'm not reading this. He's also the guy ended up doing less cigarettes too. So that case study is, I think, so important. It's like so modern. You know, it's like I think that is. He's on a 22-year-old. I think it really hits the Gen Z experience of just being like, nobody fucking was against weed, dude. You know, like you just growing up and everybody's like, yeah, weed's like straight. You know, so you're like, okay. And like you're put on pills and you're like, I don't like it, man. It just doesn't make me feel like me. It just takes away part of the aspects of myself. And so you just, smoke a little bit of weed and you feel better because it's like socially acceptable. And then you're just like, well, shit, why don't I just do this? You know, it's like cheaper and I feel better. I don't feel nauseous and I don't feel like I have a headache. You know, so, but that's also like, that's why I think this is useful, is that it's presenting it as a philosophical problem. It's presenting, insanity as a philosophical problem or an existential problem or like, a literary problem. And in that, I think that there are resolutions, and like, I think that if weed helps you just like back up a little bit and see your life in a different ontological perspective, where you're just like seeing being differently. Yeah. It's like, that's how you reset it. And like, I think that that's why entheogens and theogens are useful, with the PTSD studies and like the et cetera, with like Molly, with weed, with acid, all that shit. LSD, I should probably, lysergic acid, I think's that. Well, there and I do not know Molly's full name. I'm pretty sure it has meth in it though. So yeah, that's that guy. Then we got this 38-year-old. So like also like no, the thing that's really weird about these studies is that they started using weed outside of a traditional setting. It was just on the street. And so I got pros of that social environment. And it's kind of like kids rule social environment because like, if you got like boomer parents or like older Gen X parents, it's like they're not really gonna let you just like, hang out with, they're not gonna really just like accept that as like a serious part of pharmacology. Like if you're just like, us, if you're just like, I'm a zillennial, so I'm on the cusp. But if you have like a little bit of that, just it's like that younger, basically post '90s baby shit. It's like, yeah, we just think weed's legitimate. It should be used for clothing. It should be used for paper. It should be used for like novel medicines where it's like it can stop epilepsy, dude. Like literally, who's like not into that? If you need to like extract it, like if you need to like extract all the cannabinoids and all the psychoactive elements and like all that to like make specific medicines, fine, but just don't make it synthetic. That's the only thing that I would push for on that, is like if you need to make sure it's like 99.9% pure, fine, just don't make it up, because again, synthetic weed you can overdose on and die. It's weird. And then this is the animal studies about the ECS. They have some brain receptor shit, which is just going to be, it's hard to skim. It's like when you read this shit aloud, most of it does make sense. Most of it's just followable, which is like, and that's what I think would be surprising to a lot of people, is how readable some medical studies are. Because like, no, definitely it's difficult. Like there's some with like 5 different graphs and like 2 different like there's like the visual graphs and like the bar graphs and then like all that shit, and then there's just like a list of information, and it's like, yeah, that shit's like a little difficult to cut through. But like some of it you could just read as like a layman. And that's what I think, that's what I'm trying to really get at here. It's just like there's like a lot of interesting stuff that like just don't rely on people that tell you things, you know? Like, oh god, I'm a stoner. Yeah, don't rely on people to tell you or to tell you things because there's so much information, so much quality stuff out there that you're not going to be exposed to if you just rely on other people. You know, so like this stuff, like really just like if you have a hunch, and I know that weed is like purported to be a miracle cure. Not, no, no, no. You know, like, I'm not saying it'll fix everything, but if you have a hunch with a psychiatric issue, might be something there. You know, whether that be trichotillomania or whether that be like even like social anxiety. And it's like your mileage may vary. You're dealing with an ethanogen, which is like it works for some people. But then again, opiates work for some people. Like for some people it is like I'm not saying that anybody should do it, but like, you know, there's some people whose like quality of life is drastically improved through it and they don't experience adverse effects really. Which is weird, but like, you know, everybody's different. So it's just like it works for some. And that's about all you really need to pass the medicine, right? Um, Here we have the 38-year-old woman. She had been treated with CBT and a med, and she was put on clonopramine, whatever. She was put on another med, and then she, by chance, discovered that smoking street cannabis improved her symptoms. So basically, Auntie got high, and she was like, "I just, yeah, I dig this." She hit the blunt. she hit the she Jesus. She hit the blunt in the hot box and she's just like, I can buy it. Therefore, combined treatment with the medicine she was on and dronabinol, which I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's synthetic THC, was started. After 10 days, the symptoms decreased by 50%. The second patient had schizophrenia and OCD, who was admitted to hospital as the symptoms got worse. And he was on like various anti-psychs. They tried electroshock, and after just combining, as they're putting Drobinol into his cocktail, you know, everything went better. So, um, I was gonna say the homie, 22-year-old guy, he ended up just smoking spliffs now, you know. So that's how he dealt with his OCD. And he's like, actually, he like finished school, he like got a job better. He finished school, he got better at his job, you know. He felt like he could make more friends. You know, it's like weed gives you that, bro. Like, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? You know, it's like, did you finish school because you smoked a little? You're just like, what would we? What could I, bro? Why don't I just like? Why don't I just like graduate? Like, what the fuck? I don't know. I don't know, man. But that's like, you know, that's a case study. We have that in front of us that worked for some, and he graduated. You know, like I don't know, like what else do you need to just let people try it? We also have like I can't pull it up right now because I'm not a computer wizard. This is why I need to prepare stuff. I mean, I'm a little bit of a computer wizard. You just get quiet. Uh, there's the God damn it. Oh yeah. Workplace injury is not impacted by smoking weed, so it's not like you're more likely to fuck up at work because you're smoking weed, which means that it should not count as making your insurance not count. So if you get hurt in the workplace, it should not matter if you're high at all. Uh, so then we got cognitive behavioral. No, I'm gonna look up what they're affecting us. What they're using this one. Cannabis based medicines, CBM. Nice, nice. So there's further evidence of cannabis-based medicines and OCD in people with Tourette's. Up to 80% of people with Tourette's suffer from psychiatric comorbidities, most frequently obsessive compulsive behavior and ADHD. So in small clinical trials, they have shown that cannabis helps people with Tourette's and people with comorbid OCD because there's just such a high 80% of people with Tourette's have OCD. So further study. So out of 19 people with Tourette's that smoke weed, 15 of them are like, yeah, it helps. So let me have the discussion and the conclusion. How much time do I owe? 10 minutes. All right, no, fuck it. I can fuck around. Cool. Awesome. We did 50 minutes today. Cool. I was only 14 minutes late. Nice. Book's still there. Still updating it. Always updating it. We're still trying to get the smaller one to work. Small things are cute. Uh, ugh. All these fucking books, dude. I'm not even gonna shut, but like it's just funny because I have them next to me right now. You gotta always sleep in a room with books. It's like a dream catcher. Yeah, yeah, that's how I side with that one. We didn't talk about that. What is to be done is fucking wild. What is to be done is fucking wild. So, okay, but also, yeah, we can't do 3 books. We can't do 3 books because I feel like okay, on Monday, we're gonna do that study, and we're gonna do this book. We're gonna try to do all of them. We're gonna try to get the best quotes from this, which shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, I should be able to review that in like a day. Yeah, because it's already underlined, it's already sectioned off. It's like I fuck up my books because I'm awful. So, if you want to know how does Carlisle take care of his books? I like a piece of shit because I don't. They're books, dude. Like I used to be really particular about my books, and I used to be like, you got to keep them really in nice condition. And then I was like, they're mine, so just throw them around. Like it doesn't fucking matter. They're gonna some you're gonna spill coffee on it. You're gonna get some ash on it. Somebody's gonna sit on your bed and bend a page or something. It's gonna happen. So just don't give a shit. Unless it's like really cool. And that's not the book that I was gonna grab, but okay. This one. This one opens so fucking crazy. Don't read introductions. Nobody should ever read introductions. They're the worst. Read them after the book. I don't know why they're not at the end of the book. So it starts with this like really narrative story. It starts with like this really lucid story. I can't even. Again, I hate spoilers. I'm like, this is what is to be done. I feel like this is gonna be after I finish reading it because I haven't read it, so I can't even spoil it. But after I finish reading it, I feel like this one's gonna be up for grabs. So, because like, and also Dostoevsky at this point, like, who gives a fuck if you spoil it, like, right? Because like, if everybody's gonna mention it, we can just talk about it, right? Because that was the problem that I've always had with talking about literature is that like it's hard to share if you don't want to spoil things, but also like, all right, so my pick right now, start with the adolescent. Start with the adolescent. Why? Because it is a first person narrator, and it is I think the most immediately available book. It's also got the youngest main character, so you're going to relate to the. You're going to most likely be in the age group that it's designed for. Um, you know, um, I would say read The Adolescent and read Fathers and Sons at like side by side. I'd say do that, and then that would give you a wild experience. All right, those are my recommendations. Um, so to end off, just talking more about what we're doing here. Knowledge is power. You know, that's the idea. Power is knowledge. Like that's what the thing is. So it's like in the collapse of worthwhile education, in the collapse of the school system, we need to create a independent network of knowledge. And there's people who have done this. You know, Khan Academy is a good start. You know, where it's like that's certainly an effective way of organizing things. Skillshare, you know, that's cool. Duolingo is cool, but also just like putting, I think, free public figures behind high art. I don't try to use that label like in a, and that's exactly what I'm trying to work against. You know, is that I think that everybody deserves the opportunity to experience the best humanity has to offer. And that's honestly how I feel about a lot of high literature. Is that, I mean, like, this is the reason why I bring up this one is because it's like, I think it really will help people. I think it does. I think he did great work for the public understanding of schizophrenia and that they're just people. And I think he's fucking incredible. You know, that's why you want to share it. It's not because it's like difficult or because it's like, you know, smart. It's just because it's beautiful. And like you want people to have that experience because like you so many limited things are competing for your attention. And I think that it is just about making certain things cool in the culture. And I think that the idea of the classics is retarded because the idea of the classics is that you're limited to a certain canon, right? Where it's like, oh my God, you're just gonna like, you know, start with Socrates and then end with, you know, whatever. And it's like the idea of classics being the specific time in the world. When in reality, modern literature is in a specific time, and classic literature comes from the Japanese to like at least Egypt, you know? And like I'm not familiar. I mean, Ethiopia was Christian, so they had to have some sort of writing tradition, you know. And like, it just means that like classical literature, which everybody contributed to, you know, it's like, are the Russians particularly loaded with writers? Yeah. So is England. So is like Ireland and Scotland. So is like, you know, Spain. You know, Cervantes. That one's big. But also the first novel, like the first novels, were The Tale of Genji, I think, and Don Quixote. So you know, it's like I think that, you know, it's like it's literally from sea to sea this art form was invented, and everybody picked it up. You know, it's like it's not like classic literature is like all from the same fucking region, you know. But point is, I think that these discussions should be part of the public discussion, not part of a school discussion or part of a. I mean, like I don't even know about paywalling it. I don't even know about that. Maybe, but I feel like it's more important that people get access to the tools of thought. You know, so. Anyways, that is that's 59 minutes, and that means this is a very complete session. So cool. But yeah, I think that it's like it's Isaac Asimov's like, you know, the completion of his dream, where he's like, dude, everybody's gonna get a computer, and then they're just gonna learn about stuff, and then they're gonna be educated by their own bent. And it's like, yeah, man. Yeah, thanks, Isaac. Nailed it. Cool. Anyways, see you guys on Monday. I'm not doing this on the weekend. No, but see you guys on Monday.